Chapter 17, Port Sanctus. Orks swarm the void like a nest of hornets. Kulik saw their brutal attack as proof that they are not as sophisticated as Price thought. But the Orks had a clear target, and that was the Colossus, and a few other ships. At Price's orders, cruisers came to defend the flagship. But things weren't looking that great. The Orks were targeting the engines of the ship to cripple them. Kulik thought this a sign that the attack moon was not invincible. But since one bad news doesn't come alone, more grim news announced that 3 small Ork ships were preparing for translation. 2 decks below the bridge and the Colossus. They were trying to board them. Orders to stop them were given. Captain Kulik drew his pistol and his sword and wanted to fight the enemies. Some small remarks and frustrations happen with Price before the captain leaves with the lieutenant. While en route and waiting for their armsmen, Shuffleback told Kulik he thinks the admiral is buckling. Orks were already on the ship, and 2 more were bound to teleport in. The armsmen joined the captain and the lieutenant, and they ran towards where the Orks were. Once they reached the fighting, Kulik was glad he did not charge by himself. He couldn't count any Ork casualties. News came from the bridge that the tech priests have barricaded themselves in the sensor array room, but that the Orks got cutters with them and they will be in a matter of minutes. The lieutenant asked if the Orks knew what they held there. That was a thought that frightened Kulik, that the Orks knew more about their ships than expected. And so they ran to the sensor array room. Once they reached it, they saw only 2 Orks with cutters and a handful of others, a sign that more Orks left them to open the door, and they went their merry way to butcher more of the Emperor's citizens. A firefight started, but the last shots did nothing to the Orks, and more armsmen died. The Orks charged with their cutters. Kulik opened his sword and shouted in a mix of hatred and terror, and that sounded more like defiance. His men charged at the Orks, desperation pushing them on. Kulik managed to stab an Ork through the chest, and Shuffleback to the head. Kulik managed to stab an Ork through the head. I don't know why I wrote chest here. Shuffleback gutted another Ork. It was not swordsmanship that was at display here, but pure butchering skills. They managed to kill the Orks, but they took heavy casualties. Kulik then went back to the bridge, while leaving Shuffleback to command the Ork search party. And after a short exchange with Price, the captain looked at the star map. The Ork teleporting ships have been destroyed. The cruisers have managed to push through the Orks' attack. A message came from High Admiral Lamsung, asking Price what he was doing, not pushing towards the Ork moon. Price justified that the Rimworld flotilla needed help. Kulik agreed vocally with the High Admiral. Lamsung ordered Price to do what he is ordered, else it would be considered mutiny. But Price ordered to ignore that and come about. Kulik overrid his admiral's orders. The admiral asked the Arsemen to arrest Kulik for insubordination. But of course, Kulik overrid his orders. This was his ship, and he would respect the order of the High Admiral. Kulik tells him to go to his quarters until he regains his composure. He whispered to his admiral to act like officers. Price agreed and left, helped by an insignia. Kulik then gave the order to have all ships meet with the flagship, and in his mind he prayed that the Emperor protect him from Orks and admirals alike.